We're going to go into some 3 or 4. Oh no, we've got another piece. Some word magic that I need to cover, or I would like people to take note of. Genesis, the first book of the Pentateuch, which tells, amongst other things, the creation of the world, from the Latin Genesis, generation, nativity, it says. Perhaps it's generation, something else. And in late Latin, taken as the title of the first book of the Old Testament, from Greek Genesis, origin, creation, generation, from gignestai, which means to be born, and is related to genos, race, birth, and descent, to birth or beget, with derivatives referring to procreation and family and tribal groups. Here's the kicker. Greek translators use the word as the title of the biblical book, referring to Hebrew Bereshith, literally in the beginning, which is the first word of the text taken as its title, and the extended sense of origin creation, first recorded in England in the 1600s, is the first weekly Torah portion, parashah, in the annual Jewish cycle of the Torah reading. So this goes into the Garden of Eden, Genesis. And there's a name, Pishon, which, according to scholars, is a Hebrewized form of the Sanskrit name for the Hindus. Sanskrit is not India, it's Rus. Pishon, being the Hindus, means it's of India and Hindu, which tells you the Garden of Eden was in India, one of the 4 rivers. And the word Sindhu in India consists of sim, meaning region, and du, meaning to shake or tremble. As I said, Pishon is from the Garden of Eden. So Genesis, or is it generation Isis, stemmed from the Hebrew text as well. And that's further confirmation of the From Russia with Love series, is it not? Then we look up the word museum. Where did that come from? Of course, the most famous museums are called Holocaust museums, sadly. But there are others that show off art and all kinds of other stuff. But where did it originate? Well, same thing again. The university building in Alexandria. And originally it meant a temple or a shrine of the Muses. Museum. It's all there. Then we look up the word repository. One alt media person likes to use. And book repository from Biblion book. Bib, lion. That's the original name for Bible. A reference to the cat again. And why are lions on all the bloodline family crests? It's the same group. Now the repository comes from the word chantel, which means for dead bodies. Late 14th century, from Old French charnel of the 12th century, which meant fleshy, from the late Latin carnal, graveyard, and properly neuter of the adjective carnalis, from Latin carnis, which means of the flesh. And the root word means to cut. So they cut the flesh and put the dead bodies in the repository. all very covenish to me, feeding on the flesh, is it not? Then another word came up, which court. This is the last one. Where did that come from? And what does it mean? Well, it started in the late 12th century, and it was a formal assembly held by a sovereign. This is why I've pulled it up. From French court, King's Court, and it also meant princely residence. Now, in the 11th century, modern French cour, without the T, from the Latin courtem, which came from cors, and earlier cohors, which means enclosed yard, and by extension and perhaps by association with curia, which means sovereign's assembly, those assembled in the yard, company, or cohort, all assimilated form of com, which means with and together, and stem, hort, related to hortus, or is it Horace, garden, plot of ground, to grasp, enclose. Now, both senses of the Latin word emerged in English from the purely physical sense, meant palace, residence of a sovereign. Later on, it was called an enclosed space connected with a building or buildings, and in the sporting sense, a smooth, level plot of ground on which a ball game is played. That was from 1510 of tennis. There was also a short arm of a public street enclosed on three sides by a building in 1680 and formerly noted for poverty or as business districts, and the notion of surroundings of a sovereign by his legal state. Now, also in the 1200s comes the legal meaning, a tribunal for judicial investigation, and in the 1300s, early assemblies for justice were overseen by the sovereign personally, and also hall or chamber where justice is administered. This begs the question, the reason I put it in, for the law people, not legal, whether courts are valid under a non-sovereign administration. Think about that. Court, a formal assembly held by a sovereign. These people are not sovereign. It's not being ran under a king either. As for the tennis game, set and match, game also means to hunt. Set means set an. Match means to light a fire. Or is it Juice or Zeus? And when people found out how and why Andy Murray rose up the ranks, not negating his talent, by the way, but once you find out the backstory to it, it shows the influence it can have and can be invasive into society. And random acts are not that random at all. A formal assembly held by a sovereign. I hope the law people can help with that.